Well, hello everyone. I thought I would do a video today about what types of orchids I recommend for waterculture. This is one of my most commonly asked questions on my channel, so I thought I'd go ahead and just go through some information with you today and give you some of my experience and some of my thoughts on the waterculture method. I've been growing in waterculture now for 3 years with mixed results. When waterculture works, it's awesome. When it doesn't work, it's really bad. It's awful. So, having said that, I'll show you the ones that have worked, the ones that didn't work, and some types of orchids I might not have in my collection, but I know their growth habits, and I know people who have grown them in waterculture and their experiences, both good and bad. So I'm going to share that with you as well. So I'm going to pass on what I know and my perspective to you. So as always, if you have success in waterculture with an orchid that I don't suggest for waterculture, then please just keep doing what you're doing and share your success story with us. But this is from my point of view and from my experience. And I believe that everyone should grow their orchids the way that it works for them in their environment. Okay, so let me start with my Vandas. Vandas are great for waterculture. I bought these bare-rooted and in these vases. I've grown them for 2 years, just like this, in these vases, and they do great. Vandas are also very well known for escaping out of their media anyway. So growing them bare-rooted like this is just fine. As a matter of fact, mine do very, very well. A note about growing Vandas is learning how to fertilize these. It is of vital importance. Mine are fertilized often and fertilized well, so I really enjoy growing them bare-rooted in these vases. Okay, now let's talk about regular size Phalaenopsis orchids in waterculture. I have one Phalaenopsis growing in waterculture right now, and it's been in waterculture for about 2.5 years. I bought it and I converted it over immediately when I brought it home, and I fertilize it well and often. You need to know that at one time I had 6 of my larger Phalaenopsis orchids in waterculture. 5 of them did fine for about a year in waterculture before their new growths just started stalling or they declined. So I placed the struggling ones back in moss and they have responded just very, very well. This one phal that I have in waterculture, it does really well, but I learned through it that waterculture phals have to be fertilized a certain way. In other words, they have to be fertilized well and often, or they decline. Okay, so how about miniature Phalaenopsis orchids? I'm asked this so often. I don't recommend mini phals for waterculture. None of my miniature Phalaenopsis did well in waterculture. One of them did bloom for a short period of time, but then it almost immediately absorbed its spike. So most of them just stalled. They didn't do anything. They didn't grow. Most of them did not bloom. And so I placed those back in New Zealand sphagnum moss, and they're all just thriving now. Okay, and how about my Dendrobiums? As most of you know, I grew most of my Dendrobiums in waterculture a few years ago. I can tell you from experience that they grow better in media. The difference in the size of the new growths and the bud and the flower count is amazing. They grow just so much better in media. I grow them in Orchiata bark, and I also grow them in New Zealand sphagnum moss. Both groups do very, very well. They're really hard to keep in a vase or a container when they're blooming in waterculture. They get really top heavy and they keep falling out. And so I had to place some in really deep containers so that they wouldn't topple over. And that's really not good for the plant. It can encourage rot. It also kind of looked strange to have most of the plant down in a glass container. So I just went ahead and converted all of them over to media, and I've gotten a lot more of them to bloom that way. So this has been a success. Media for your Dendrobiums. That's what I highly recommend. Okay, how about Cattleyas in water culture? I have always grown my Cattleya in New Zealand sphagnum moss for many, many years. And do you see how this grows really top heavy? This is going to be very, very hard for you to keep in a vase. So if you're wondering about a really good medium for Cattleyas, I've grown this one for 15 years in New Zealand sphagnum moss. It does splendidly well. So that's my advice to you with Cattleyas. Okay, let's go over some that I don't have in my collection right now, but maybe I used to grow them, or I know growers who do, and I've been able to observe them. Another popular question is, how about Cymbidiums? Would they be good for water culture? I don't recommend Cymbidiums for water culture. They are semi-terrestrial orchids, and the roots need something to anchor to so that they'll spread and grow like they should. They're also huge plants, and they tip over really easily. So they would be very difficult to convert over and to maintain in water culture. And another type of orchid that I don't have in my collection, but I've been able to observe them growing, the Oncidium Alliance. How about the Oncidium Alliance for water culture? You know, they grow these long, arching, graceful spikes. My thought on that is it's going to be really hard to keep them in a water culture container or vase. They're also top heavy, so you have to take that into consideration before you choose their growing method. And with any other type of orchid, even one that I haven't mentioned, consider how it grows. Does it spread along the ground? Do the roots need to attach themselves to something to grow optimally? Is it top heavy? Is the spike going to grow quite long, and will that be a problem for you to care for while it's budding and blooming? Will it be at risk of toppling out of the vase, which you don't want to happen? These are all the questions that I would ask myself before trying water culture. And just remember, it is a challenging method of growing. And if you do choose water culture, just make sure you know ahead of time how you're going to fertilize them. Fertilizing is really, really important with water culture. So I hope you all are just having a great day. Be highly favored, deeply loved, and greatly blessed. And we'll talk to you all next time.